Good morning, coloring crew. How are you today? You ready for the last day of Noah Lessons Beyond the Art? And then most likely tomorrow we'll start a new one. So let's send this to everybody. Oh my god. Me and Dad went out for supper last night. I couldn't really eat half of what I had. I do not know why. I couldn't really eat my salad. It happens. My stomach was blowing up like a balloon. Come listen to the Word of God. I think it's because my stomach's been nervous. I had a nervous stomach for the past few days. I don't know why. It happens sometimes. Hello, whoever's here. How are you? Snookums. Now we'll do Instagram. See, right now my stomach's a little. Oh my god. Oh no, not her. I'll take my stomach pill before I do anything. But let me just send everybody the message. Two people. Hello, two people. Okay. I just don't know what. A is Bella. Don't say. I was gonna say so. Don't say the same thing twice like that. Someone that was on my channel for a short time said hi like 100, like at least 100 times, and I said stop because that's spam. Because I'll spam it. They said, sorry, I gotta go. Bye. And I still spammed it. Okay, Snookums. Got it. She lost her extra channel. Look at my hair, how horrible it is. Okay, let's say Lord's Prayer. Our Father who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread. Forgive us for our trespasses. Forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not to temptation, but deliver us from evil. Amen. Did I say that right? Stressful weekend. I'm telling you. I got my Nana. Okay. So if anybody has any reading plan suggestions, subjects, let me know. Oh, I did too. Hold on, guys. It says I missed two. Hold on. It's it said I missed day 2 when I didn't. I just never clicked the check mark. It says I still missed a day. Alright guys, it's gonna be a delay. Let me just... It still says I missed a day. John or Mark. A reading plan for John and Mark. Alright. Alright. This will start in 5 minutes because I did day 2. Hey Jamie, how are you? I did take day 2, but it's saying I didn't. Pamela! Well, 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 I was hoping you would come by. I wanted to give you an update on the iPad over there if you can see it. Yeah, this will start in about 5 minutes because it says I didn't do it. So I'm slightly going to play it because I know I did day 2. Gets me aggravated. You just sore, Jamie. Your knee makes my knee look sore. So how are you, Pamela? How come Vicky's always going on so early? Oh, my stomach is still flippity floppy. I'll go to the gym, but I'm not going to do a heavy workout. Yeah, this is starting in a few minutes because it says I didn't do it. I know I did it. I might just fling my iPad out the window. I can't even use it regularly no more. When I do, it takes like 12 hours to freaking charge. Oh, yeah? Yeah, the iPad's at the end of its life because I'm going to be flinging it out the window. It doesn't charge right. It doesn't charge as it is. It's not charging well at all. I have to put it at a certain spot. and not touch if it propped up on my pillow, and sometimes that don't work. So it's horrible. It's the charging dock because these chargers work on my other devices just fine. It was just doing the wrong day. All right, let's just Yeah, but these chargers are brand new. It's the charging dock on the iPad. So Pam knows about this stupid iPad. Okay, why don't we just start on day 5 and I'll just redo day 4 later. Or I can do it now because oh, yes, there we go. There we go. I got it. It's all set now. No, I did not do day 5. Oh boy. It says day 5. Day 5 is already marked off. What? I have no idea what that is. Okay, let's get into the Bible thing.
We're getting ready to finish the story of Noah, and if you remember, there's a story that went all the way from Adam to Eve, and it's starting to spiral downhill, and then God calls Noah, and the words that it says is, "The days I will contend with human beings is 120 years." It doesn't, I don't think, mean that people are only going to live 120 years. Instead, God proclaimed that He's going to judge the world in a set time period. Well, that time period comes, and only Noah and his family get on the ark. They're on the ark. It's starting to float to the top. It rests. The waters start to recede. I don't know if you know this, but they're in the ark more than a year. And you can just imagine the tension and what's
A
going on.
year.
So start to send some things out to hope to see if someone is really there and God is really taking care of things. So they send out a raven, and the raven flies around and comes back. They send out another one, and then it doesn't come back. So then he says, "I'll take this domesticated bird and I'll send this dove off." And the dove returns, one of the doves returns with an olive branch in his mouth, and then the next one never returns. And you're thinking, okay, now I'm ready to get off this ark. I think they're on the ark for like another week, which just tells me how patient, at least another week, how patient they are as they wait for God to open up this ark. What do you think the first thing is they do besides kiss the ground? They build an altar. After they build this altar, this is what transpires. The Lord smelled the pleasing aroma, this is of the burnt offering, and said in his heart, "Never again will I curse the ground because of humans, even though every inclination of the human heart is evil from childhood. And never again will I destroy all living creatures as I have done." And then later on, the most famous of promises, God says, "As a sign to you," I don't think this is the first time rainbows came out, but there was a rainbow in the sky. And God said, when you look at that rainbow, essentially, when you look at that rainbow, you can know I've made a promise. I'm not going to destroy the world with a flood. Okay, everything's great. Noah and his family start to grow, and everything's going fantastic. Until a secret and a story we don't often talk about. Noah builds a vineyard a little bit later, and Noah gets rip-roaring drunk, and he's passed out naked in his tent. We don't know exactly with the Hebrew what exactly happened, but when Ham comes in to see that, he tells his other brothers, Noah is so angry that he literally curses Ham and his descendants from then on, like pronounced, you can read it in the Bible, curse. So what does this tell us? A couple things. Noah is described up until this point in the Bible as righteous, blameless, faithfully following God, and a preacher of righteousness. And here he is getting drunk. It doesn't matter who you are or what kind of past you've had. Every single one of us is going to make mistakes. And the promise of a rainbow that God's not going to destroy the world is not going to help. To me, the thing you have to look at, if you look at how the chronology goes down, it goes through the nations. If it's not just a summary of generations, and this is really the timetable, Noah is about 600 years old when he gets on the ark. He dies, I think, at 950, so it's 350 years left on earth. Well, about 300 years later, if you follow that timeline, a man is born named Abraham. And that man grows up, and God calls him, and he makes 3 promises to him, and one that really, really matters to you. He says, "I'm going to make you a great nation." That doesn't matter to you. "I'm going to give you the land of Israel." That doesn't really matter to you. But the third one does. I'm going to send the Savior of the world through your line. And that Savior of the world, Jesus Christ, came in flesh, and how do you describe him? Besides glorious and majestic. And not just to live in this earth, but to show us what it's like to be a real human being, to love and serve other people. And ultimately to show us what it's like to be a God who loves and going to the cross to pay for all your sins, even drinking too much after you've been on an hour.
What did I do? No, 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 no.
Me to go faster.
I hit. I hit another
Follow
video.
that timeline. A man is born named Abraham. And that man grows up and God
Close.
calls him and makes three promises to him, and the one that really, really matters to you. He says, I'm going to make you a great nation. That doesn't matter to you. I'm going to give you the land of Israel. It doesn't really matter to you. But the third one does. I'm going to send the Savior of the world through your line. And that Savior of the world, Jesus Christ, came in flesh. And how do you describe that? Besides glorious and majestic. And not just to live in this earth, but to show us what it's like to be a real human being, to love and serve other people, and ultimately to show us what it's like to be a God who loves and going to the cross to pay for all your sins, even drinking too much after you've been on an hour. Let's pray. Heavenly Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, we got a chance to look at the life of Noah, and there's so many people we look up to in this world, and we all have heroes, and we all have people, even in the scriptures, that we look to and think how amazing they are. Even the most amazing human being affected by sin can make mistakes. Noah made one of those mistakes. It is so comforting to us and comforting to me that you have covered the mistakes that I have made, not with the promise that you're not going to destroy the world with a flood, but instead a different promise that says you're going to send a Savior, a promise that you absolutely fulfill. Let us hold on to that as we go about our days today. We ask this in your name. Amen.
Amen. That was sauce, so I was holding it up. Okay. This is Genesis 8, 1 through 22 again. The flood recedes. But God remembered Noah and all the wild animals and livestock with him in the boat. He sent a wind to blow across the earth, and the flood water began to recede. The underground water stopped flowing, and the torrential rains from the sky were stopped. So the flood waters gradually receded from the earth. After 150 days, exactly 5 months from the time the flood began, the boat came to rest on the mountains of Ararat. I don't know. 2.5 months later, as the water continued to go down over mountains, peaks became visible. This is why I don't read. After another 40 days, Noah opened the window he had made in the boat and released a raven. The bird flew back and forth until the flood waters on earth had dried up. He also released a dove to see if the water had reduced and it could find dry ground. But the dove could not find no place to land because the water still covered the ground. So it returned to the boat, and Noah held out his hand and drew the dove back inside. After waiting another 7 days, Noah released the dove again. This day, the dove returned to him in the evening with a fresh olive leaf in its beak. Then Noah knew that the flood water was almost gone. He waited another 7 days and then released the dove again. This time, it did not come back. Noah was 601 years old. On the first day of the new year, 10.5 months after the flood began, the flood waters had almost dried up from the earth. Noah lifted back the covering of the boat and saw that the surface of the ground was drying. 2 more months went by, and at least the earth was dry. Then God said to Noah, "Leave the boat, all of you. You and your wife and your sons and their wives. Release all the animals, the birds, and the livestock, and the small animals that scurry along the ground, so they can be fruitful and multiply throughout the earth." So Noah, his wife, and his sons, their wives, left the boat, and all the large and small animals and birds came out of the boat, pair by pair. Then Noah built an altar to the Lord, and there he sacrificed as burnt offerings the animals and birds that had been approved for that purpose. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice, and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent toward evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer and winter, day and night." Whew. The next one is Genesis 8. I don't know why they do this, but it's verses 21 and 22. And the Lord was pleased with the aroma of the sacrifice, and said to himself, "I will never again curse the ground because of the human race, even though everything they think or imagine is bent towards evil from childhood. I will never again destroy all living things. As long as the earth remains, there will be planting and harvest, cold and heat, summer, winter, day and night." Another one. This is Genesis 9. 18 to the end. It's 18 to 28 or something. The sons of Noah who came out of the boat with their father were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Ham is the father of Canaan. From the 3 sons of Noah came all the people who now populate the earth. So, Noah from Noah's Ark is our great-grandfather. After the flood, Noah began to cultivate the ground, and he planted a vineyard. One day he drank some wine he had made, and he became drunk and lay naked inside his tent. Ham, the father of Canaan, saw that his father was naked and went outside and told his brothers. Then Shem and Japheth took a robe, held it over their shoulders, and backed into the tent to cover their father. As they did this, they looked the other way so they would not see him naked. Then Noah woke up from his stupor. He learned that Ham, his youngest son, had done. Then he cursed Canaan, the son of Ham. May Canaan be cursed. May Canaan be cursed. May he be the lowest of servants to his relatives. Then Noah said, "May the Lord, the God of Shem, be blessed, and may Canaan be his servant. May God expand the territory of Japheth. May Japheth share the prosperity of Shem, and may Canaan be his servant." Noah lived another 350 years after the great flood. And that is it for Noah. Okay, Pam. Thank you, Pam. I'm like, oh, it's so annoying now. Trying to get that stupid thing to go. So the next reading plan is going to be about, what is it? John or Mark, so I'll figure that out. And what we're gonna read today, I'll just listen today. Let's see. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Come on. What? Oh, I am totally late. How about Deuteronomy? Let's read that. Let's listen to that.
The book of Deuteronomy, chapter 1.
It can't be this loud.
Introduction to Moses' first address. These are the words that Moses spoke to all the people of Israel
Can you guys still hear it?
while they were in the wilderness east of the Jordan River. They were camped in the Jordan Valley near Suph, between Paran on one side and Tophel, Laban, Hazeroth, and Dizahab on the other. Normally, it takes only 11 days to travel from Mount Sinai to Kadesh Barnea, going by way of Mount Seir. But 40 years after the Israelites left Egypt, on the first day of the 11th month, Moses addressed the people of Israel, telling them everything the Lord had commanded him to say. This took place after he
Yeah, it's low
defeated
volume. My
Sihon
brother's
of the
right next
Amorites,
door.
who had ruled in Heshbon, and King Og of Bashan, who had ruled in Ashtaroth and Edrei. While the Israelites were in the land of Moab, east of the Jordan River, Moses carefully explained the Lord's instructions as follows. The command to leave Sinai. When we were at Mount Sinai, the Lord our God said to us, "You have stayed at this mountain long enough. It is time to break camp and move on. Go to the hill country of the Amorites, and to all the neighboring regions, the Jordan Valley, the hill country, the western foothills, the Negev, and the coastal plain. Go to the land of the Canaanites and to Lebanon, and all the way to the great Euphrates River. Look, I am giving all this land to you. Go in and occupy it, for it is the land the Lord
All right, have a good day at class. Thank you.
swore to give to your ancestors, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and to all their descendants." Moses appoints leaders from each tribe. Moses continued, "At that time I told you, you are too great a burden for me to carry all by myself. The Lord your God has increased your population, making you as numerous as the stars. And may the Lord, the God of your ancestors, multiply you 1,000 times more and bless you as he promised. But you are such a heavy load to carry. How can I deal with all your problems and bickering? Choose some well-respected men from each tribe who are known for their wisdom and understanding, and I will appoint them as your leaders." Then you responded, "Your plan is a good one." So I took the wise and respected men you had selected from your tribes and appointed them to serve as judges and officials over you. Some were responsible for 1,000 people, some for 100, some for 50, and some for 10. At that time I instructed the judges, "You must hear the cases of your fellow Israelites and the foreigners living among you. Be perfectly fair in your decisions and impartial in your judgments. Hear the cases of those who are poor as well as those who are rich. Don't be afraid of anyone's anger, for the decision you make is God's decision. Bring me any cases that are too difficult for you, and I will handle them." At that time, I gave you instructions about everything you were to do. Scouts explore the land. Then, just as the Lord our God commanded us, we left Mount Sinai and traveled through the great and terrifying wilderness, as you yourselves remember, and headed toward the hill country of the Amorites. When we arrived at Kadesh Barnea, I said to you, "You have now reached the hill country of the Amorites that the Lord our God is giving us. Look, he has placed the land in front of you. Go and occupy it, as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, has promised you. Don't be afraid. Don't be discouraged." But you all came to me and said, "First, let's send out scouts to explore the land for us. They will advise us on the best route to take and which towns we should enter." This seemed like a good idea to me, so I chose 12 scouts, one from each of your tribes. They headed for the hill country and came to the valley of Eshcol and explored it. They picked some of its fruit and brought it back to us, and they reported, "The land the Lord our God has given us is indeed a good land." Israel's rebellion against the Lord. But you rebelled against the command of the Lord your God and refused to go in. You complained in your tents and said, "The Lord must hate us. That's why he has brought us here from Egypt to hand us over to the Amorites to be slaughtered. Where can we go? Our brothers have demoralized us with their report. They tell us the people of the land are taller and more powerful than we are, and their towns are large, with walls rising high into the sky. We even saw giants there, the descendants of Anak." But I said to you, "Don't be shocked or afraid of them. The Lord your God is going ahead of you. He will fight for you, just as you saw him do in Egypt. And you saw how the Lord your God cared for you all along the way as you traveled through the wilderness, just as a father cares for his child. Now he has brought you to this place. But even after all he did, you refused to trust the Lord your God, who goes before you, looking for the best places to camp, guiding you with a pillar of fire by night and a pillar of cloud by day. When the Lord heard your complaining, he became very angry, so he solemnly swore, "Not one of you from this wicked generation will live to see the good land I swore to give your ancestors, except Caleb, son of Jephunneh. He will see this land because he has followed the Lord completely. I will give to him and his descendants some of the very land he explored during his scouting mission." And the Lord was also angry with me because of you. He said to me, "Moses, not even you will enter the promised land. Instead, your assistant, Joshua, son of Nun, will lead the people into the land. Encourage him, for he will lead Israel as they take possession of it. I will give the land to your little ones, your innocent children. You were afraid they would be captured, but they will be the ones who occupy it. As for you, turn around now and go on back through the wilderness toward the Red Sea." Then you confessed, "We have sinned against the Lord. We will go into the land and fight for it, as the Lord our God has commanded us." So your men strapped on their weapons, thinking it would be easy to attack the hill country. But the Lord told me to tell you, "Do not attack, for I am not with you. If you go ahead on your own, you will be crushed by your enemies." This is what I told you, but you would not listen. Instead, you again rebelled against the Lord's command and arrogantly went into the hill country to fight. But the Amorites who lived there came out against you like a swarm of bees. They chased and battered you all the way from Seir to Hormah. Then you returned and wept before the Lord, but he refused to listen. So you stayed there at Kadesh for a long time. Chapter 2. Remembering Israel's Wanderings. Then we turned around and headed back across the wilderness toward the Red Sea, just as the Lord had instructed me. And we wandered around in the region of Mount Seir for a long time. Then at last the Lord said to me, "You have been wandering around in this hill country long enough. Turn to the north. Give these orders to the people. You will pass through the country belonging to your relatives the Edomites, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. The Edomites will feel threatened, so be careful. Do not bother them, for I have given them all the hill country around Mount Seir as their property, and I will not give you even 1 square foot of their land. If you need food to eat or water to drink, pay them for it. For the Lord your God has blessed you in everything you have done. He has watched your every step through this great wilderness. During these 40 years, the Lord your God has been with you, and you have lacked nothing." So we bypassed the territory of our relatives, the descendants of Esau, who live in Seir. We avoided the road through the Arabah Valley that comes up from Elath and Ezion-Geber. Then, as we turned north along the desert route through Moab, the Lord warned us, "Do not bother the Moabites, the descendants of Lot, or start a war with them. I have given them Ar as their property, and I will not give you any of their land." A race of giants called the Emites had once lived in the area of Ar. They were as strong and numerous and tall as the Anakites, another race of giants. Both the Emites and the Anakites are also known as the Rephaites, though the Moabites called them Emites. In earlier times, the Horites had lived in Seir, but they were driven out and displaced by the descendants of Esau, just as Israel drove out the people of Canaan when the Lord gave Israel their land. Moses continued, "Then the Lord said to us, 'Get moving, cross the Zered Brook.' So we crossed the brook. 38 years passed from the time we first left Kadesh Barnea until we finally crossed the Zered Brook. By then all the men old enough to fight in battle had died in the wilderness, as the Lord had vowed would happen. The Lord struck them down until they had all been eliminated from the community. When all the men of fighting age had died, the Lord said to me, "Today you will cross the border of Moab at Ar, and enter the land of the Ammonites, the descendants of Lot. But do not bother them or start a war with them. I have given the land of Ammon to them as their property, and I will not give you any of their land." That area was once considered the land of the Rephaites who had lived there, though the Ammonites called them Zamzummites. They were also as strong and numerous and tall as the Anakites. But the Lord destroyed them, so the Ammonites could occupy their land. He had done the same for the descendants of Esau who lived in Seir, for he destroyed the Horites so they could settle there in their place. The descendants of Esau live there to this day. A similar thing happened when the Caphtorites from Crete invaded and destroyed the Avites, who had lived in villages in the area of Gaza. Moses continued, "Then the Lord said, 'Now get moving, cross the Arnon Gorge. Look, I will hand over to you Sihon the Amorite, king of Heshbon, and I will give you his land. Attack him and begin to occupy the land. Beginning today, I will make people throughout the earth terrified because of you. When they hear reports about you, they will tremble with dread and fear.'" Victory over Sihon of Heshbon. Moses continued, "From the wilderness of Kedemoth I sent ambassadors to King Sihon of Heshbon with this proposal of peace. Let us travel through your land. We will stay on the main road and won't turn off into the fields on either side. Sell us food to eat and water to drink, and we will pay for it. All we want is permission to pass through your land. The descendants of Esau who live in Seir allowed us to go through their country, and so did the Moabites who live in Ar. Let us pass through until we cross the Jordan into the land the Lord our God is giving us." But King Sihon of Heshbon refused to allow us to pass through, because the Lord your God made Sihon stubborn and defiant, so he could help you defeat him, as he has now done. Then the Lord said to me, "Look, I have begun to hand King Sihon and his land over to you. Begin now to conquer and occupy his land." Then King Sihon declared war on us and mobilized his forces at Jahaz. But the Lord our God handed him over to us, and we crushed him, his sons, and all his people. We conquered all his towns and completely destroyed everyone, men, women, and children. Not a single person was spared. We took all the livestock as plunder for ourselves, along with anything of value from the towns we ransacked. The Lord our God also helped us conquer Aror on the edge of the Arnon Gorge, and the town in the gorge, and the whole area as far as Gilead. No town had walls too strong for us. However, we avoided the land of the Ammonites all along the Jabbok River and the towns in the hill country, all the places the Lord our God had commanded us to leave alone. Chapter 3. Victory over Og of Bashan. Next we turned and headed for the land of Bashan, where King Og and his entire army attacked us at Edrei. But the Lord told me, "Do not be afraid of him, for I have given you victory over Og and his entire army, and I will give you all his land. Treat him just as you treated King Sihon of the Amorites, who ruled in Heshbon." So the Lord our God handed King Og and all his people over to us, and we killed them all. Not a single person survived. We conquered all 60 of his towns, the entire Argob region in his kingdom of Bashan. Not a single town escaped our conquest. These towns were all fortified with high walls and barred gates. We also took many unwalled villages at the same time. We completely destroyed the kingdom of Bashan, just as we had destroyed King Sihon of Heshbon. We destroyed all the people in every town we conquered, men, women, and children alike. But we kept all the livestock for ourselves and took plunder from all the towns. So we took the land of the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan River, all the way from the Arnon Gorge to Mount Hermon. Mount Hermon is called Sirion by the Sidonians, and the Amorites call it Senir. We had now conquered all the cities on the plateau and all Gilead and Bashan, as far as the towns of Salecah and Edrei, which were part of Og's kingdom in Bashan. King Og of Bashan was the last survivor of the giant Rephaites. His bed was made of iron and was more than 13 feet long and 6 feet wide. It can still be seen in the Ammonite city of Rabbah. land division east of the Jordan. When we took possession of this land, I gave to the tribes of Reuben and Gad the territory beyond Aror along the Arnon Gorge, plus half of the hill country of Gilead with its towns. Then I gave the rest of Gilead and all of Bashan, Og's former kingdom, to the half-tribe of Manasseh. This entire Argob region of Bashan used to be known as the land of the Rephaites. Jair, a leader from the tribe of Manasseh, conquered the whole Argob region in Bashan, all the way to the border of the Geshurites and Maacathites. Jair renamed this region after himself, calling it the Towns of Jair, as it is still known today. I gave Gilead to the clan of Machir, but I also gave part of Gilead to the tribes of Reuben and Gad. The area I gave them extended from the middle of the Arnon Gorge in the south to the Jabbok River on the Ammonite
I'm still thinking of that, Jamie.
frontier. They also received the Jordan Valley, all the way from the Sea of Galilee down to the Dead Sea, with the Jordan River serving as the western boundary. To the east were the slopes of Pisgah. At that time I gave this command to the tribes that would live east of the Jordan. Although the Lord your God has given you this land as your property, all your fighting men must cross the Jordan ahead of your Israelite relatives, armed and ready to assist them. Your wives, children, and numerous livestock, however, may stay behind in the towns I have given you. When the Lord has given security to the rest of the Israelites, as he has to you, and when they occupy the land the Lord your God is giving them across the Jordan River, then you may all return here to the land I have given you. Moses forbidden to enter the land. At that time I gave Joshua this charge. You have seen for yourself everything the Lord your God has done to these two kings. He will do the same to all the kingdoms on the west side of the Jordan. Do not be afraid of the nations there, for the Lord your God will fight for you. At that time I pleaded with the Lord and said, O sovereign Lord, you have only begun to show your greatness and the strength of your hand to me, your servant. Is there any God in heaven or on earth who can perform such great and mighty deeds as you do? Please let me cross the Jordan to see the wonderful land on the other side, the beautiful hill country and the Lebanon mountains. But the Lord was angry with me because of you, and he would not listen to me. That's enough, he declared. Speak of it no more. But go up to Pisgah Peak and look over the land in every direction. Take a good look, but you may not cross the Jordan River. Instead, commission Joshua and encourage and strengthen him, for he will lead the people across the Jordan. He will give them all the land you now see before you as their possession. So he stayed in the valley near Beth Peor.
Whew.
Chapter 4. Moses urges Israel to obey.
Thank you.
And now, Israel, listen carefully to these decrees and regulations that I am about to teach you. Obey them so that you may live, so you may enter and occupy the land that the Lord, the God of your ancestors, is giving you. Do not add to or subtract from these commands I am giving you. Just obey the commands of the Lord your God that I am giving you. You saw for yourself what the Lord did to you at Baal Peor. There the Lord your God destroyed everyone who had worshipped Baal, the god of Peor. But all of you who were faithful to the Lord your God are still alive today, every one of you. Look, I now teach you these decrees and regulations just as the Lord my God commanded me, so that you may obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. Obey them completely, and you will display your wisdom and intelligence among the surrounding nations. When they hear all these decrees, they will exclaim, "How wise and prudent are the people of this great nation!" For what great nation has a God as near to them as the Lord our God is near to us whenever we call on him?
Hello, Shonda. Thank you. I'll pray as well. Hey, Alicia.
And what great nation has decrees and regulations as righteous and fair as this body of instructions that I am giving you today? But watch out. Be careful never to forget what you yourself have seen. Do not let these memories escape from your mind as long as you live, and be sure to pass them on to your children and grandchildren. Never forget the day when you stood before the Lord your God at Mount Sinai, where he told me, "Summon the people before me, and I will personally instruct them." Then they will learn to fear me as long as they live, and they will teach their children to fear me also. You came near and stood at the foot of the mountain, while flames from the mountain shot into the sky. The mountain was shrouded in black clouds and deep darkness, and the Lord spoke to you from the heart of the fire. You heard the sound of his words, but didn't see his form. There was only a voice. He proclaimed his covenant, the 10 Commandments, which he commanded you to keep, and which he wrote on 2 stone tablets. It was at that time that the Lord commanded me to teach you his decrees and regulations, so you would obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. A warning against idolatry. But be very careful. You did not see the Lord's form on the day he spoke to you from the heart of the fire at Mount Sinai. So do not corrupt yourselves by making an idol in any form, whether of a man
Alicia, Pam already left.
or a woman, an animal on the ground, a bird in the sky, a small animal that scurries along the ground, or a fish in the deepest sea. And when you look up into the sky and see the sun, moon, and stars, all the forces of heaven, don't be seduced into worshiping them. The Lord your God gave them to all the peoples of the earth. Remember that the Lord rescued you from the iron-smelting furnace of Egypt in order to make you his very own people and his special possession, which is what you are today. But the Lord was angry with me because of you. He
She had to go to class. You know, college, school.
vowed that I would not cross the Jordan River into the good land the Lord your God is giving you as your special possession. You will cross the Jordan to occupy the land, but I will not. Instead, I will die here on the east side of the river. So be careful not to break the covenant the Lord your God has made with you. Do not make idols of any shape or form, for the Lord your God has forbidden this. The Lord your God is a devouring fire. He is a jealous God. In the future, when you have children and grandchildren, and have lived in the land a long time, do not corrupt yourselves by making idols of any kind. This is evil in the sight of the Lord your God, and will arouse his anger. Today I call on heaven and earth as witnesses against you. If you break my covenant, you will quickly disappear from the land you are crossing the Jordan to occupy. You will live there only a short time, then you will be utterly destroyed. For the Lord will scatter you among the nations where only a few of you will survive. There, in a foreign land, you will
Ooh,
worship
excuse
idols
me,
made
sorry.
from wood and
Oh.
stone, gods that neither see, nor hear, nor eat, nor smell. But from there you will search again for the Lord your God. And if you search for him with all your heart and soul, you will find him. In the distant future, when you are suffering all these things, you will finally return to the Lord your God and listen to what he tells you. For the Lord your God is a merciful God. He will not abandon you or destroy you or forget the solemn covenant he made with your ancestors. There is only one God. Now search all of history, from the time God created people on the earth until now, and search from one end of the heavens to the other. Has anything as great as this ever been seen or heard before? Has any nation ever heard the voice of God speaking from fire, as you did, and survived? Has any other God dared to take a nation for himself out of another nation by means of trials, miraculous signs, wonders, war, a strong hand, a powerful arm, and terrifying acts? Yet that is what the Lord your God did for you in Egypt right before your eyes. He showed you these things so you would know that the Lord is God and there is no other. He let you hear his voice from heaven so he could instruct you. He let you see his great fire here on earth so he could speak to you from it. Because he loved your ancestors, he chose to bless their descendants, and he personally brought you out of Egypt with a great display of power. He drove out nations far greater than you, so he could bring you in and give you their land as your special possession, as it is today. So remember this, and keep it firmly in mind. The Lord is God both in heaven and on earth, and there is no other. If you obey all the decrees and commands I am giving you today, all will be well with you and your children. I am giving you these instructions so you will enjoy a long life in the land the Lord your God is giving you for all time. eastern cities of refuge. Then Moses set apart 3 cities of refuge east of the Jordan River. Anyone who killed another person unintentionally without previous hostility could flee there to live in safety. These were the cities: Bezer on the wilderness plateau for the tribe of Reuben, Ramoth in Gilead for the tribe of Gad, Golan in Bashan for the tribe of Manasseh. Introduction to Moses' second address. This is the body of instruction that Moses presented to the Israelites. These are the laws, decrees, and regulations that Moses gave to the people of Israel when they left Egypt, and as they camped in the valley near Beth Peor, east of the Jordan River. This land was formerly occupied by the Amorites under King Sihon, who ruled from Heshbon. But Moses and the Israelites destroyed him and his people when they came up from Egypt. Israel took possession of his land and that of King Og of Bashan, the 2 Amorite kings east of the Jordan. So Israel conquered the entire area from Aror at the edge of the Arnon Gorge all the way to Mount Sirion, also called Mount Hermon. And they conquered the eastern bank of the Jordan River as far south as the Dead Sea below the slopes of Pisgah. Chapter 5. 10 Commandments for the Covenant Community.
Ooh.
Moses called all the people of Israel together and said, "Listen carefully, Israel. Hear the decrees and regulations I am giving you today, so you may learn them and obey them. The Lord our God made a covenant with us at Mount Sinai. The Lord did not make this covenant with our ancestors, but with all of us who are alive today. At the mountain the Lord spoke to you face to face from the heart of the fire. I stood as an intermediary between you and the Lord, for you were afraid of the fire and did not want to approach the mountain. He spoke to me, and I passed his words on to you. This is what he said. I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me. You must not make for yourself an idol of any kind, or an image of anything in the heavens, or on the earth, or in the sea. You must not bow down to them or worship them, for I, the Lord your God, am a jealous God who will not tolerate your affection for any other gods. I lay the sins of the parents upon their children. The entire family is affected, even children in the 3rd and 4th generations of those who reject me. But I lavish unfailing love for 1,000 generations on those who love me and obey my commands. You must not misuse the name of the Lord your God. The Lord will not let you go unpunished if you misuse his name. Observe the Sabbath day by keeping it holy, as the Lord your God has commanded you. You have 6 days each week for your ordinary work, but the 7th day is a Sabbath day of rest, dedicated to the Lord your God. On that day, no one in your household may do any work. This includes you, your sons and daughters, your male and female servants, your oxen and donkeys, and other livestock, and any foreigners living among you. All your male and female servants must rest as you do. Remember that you were once slaves in Egypt, but the Lord your God brought you out with his strong hand and powerful arm. That is why the Lord your God has commanded you to rest on the Sabbath day. Honor your father and mother, as the Lord your God commanded you. Then you will live a long, full life in the land the Lord your God is giving you. You must not murder. You must not commit adultery. You must not steal. You
Thank you, Shonda.
must not testify falsely against your neighbor.
Excuse me.
You must not covet your neighbor's wife. You must not covet your neighbor's house or land, male or female servant, ox or donkey, or anything else that belongs to your neighbor. The Lord spoke these words to all of you assembled there at the foot of the mountain. He spoke with a loud voice from the heart of the fire, surrounded by clouds and deep darkness. This was all he said at that time, and he wrote his words on 2 stone tablets and gave them to me. But when you heard the voice from the heart of the darkness, while the mountain was blazing with fire, all your tribal leaders and elders came to me. They said, "Look, the Lord our God has shown us his glory and greatness, and we have heard his voice from the heart of the fire. Today we have seen that God can speak to us humans, and yet we live. But now, why should we risk death again? If the Lord our God speaks to us again, we will certainly die and be consumed by this awesome fire. Can any living thing hear the voice of the living God from the heart of the fire as we did and yet survive? Go yourself and listen to what the Lord our God says. Then come and tell us everything he tells you, and we will listen and obey. The Lord heard the request you made to me, and he said, I have heard what the people said to you, and they are right. Oh, that they would always have hearts like this, that they might fear me and obey all my commands. If they did, they and their descendants would prosper forever. Go and tell them, return to your tents. But you stand here with me, so I can give you all my commands, decrees, and regulations. You must teach them to the people so they can obey them in the land I am giving them as their possession. So Moses told the people, you must be careful to obey all the commands of the Lord your God, following his instructions in every detail. Stay on the path that the Lord your God has commanded you to follow. Then you will live long and prosperous lives in the land you are about to enter and occupy.
They live
Chapter
long
6,
and prosper.
A call for wholehearted commitment. These are the commands, decrees, and regulations that the Lord your God commanded me to teach you. You must
Okay, bye-bye, Shonda.
obey them in the land you are about to enter and occupy. And you and your children and grandchildren must fear the Lord your God as long as you live. If you obey all his decrees and commands, you will enjoy a long life. Listen closely, Israel, and be careful to obey. Then all will go well with you, and you will have many children in the
Guys, this will be the last one.
land flowing with milk and honey, just as the Lord, the God of your ancestors, promised you. Listen, O Israel, the Lord is our God, the Lord alone. And you must love the Lord your God with all your heart, all your soul, and all your strength. And you must commit yourselves wholeheartedly to these commands that I am giving you today. Repeat them again and again to your children. Talk about them when you are at home, and when you are on the road, when you are going to bed, and when you are getting up. Tie them to your hands and wear them on your forehead as reminders. Write them on the doorposts of your house and on your gates. The Lord your God will soon bring you into the land he swore to give you when he made a vow to your ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. It is a land with large, prosperous cities that you did not build. The houses will be richly stocked with goods you did not produce. You will draw water from cisterns you did not dig. And you will eat from vineyards and olive trees you did not plant. When you have eaten your fill in this land, be careful not to forget the Lord who rescued you from slavery in the land of Egypt. You must fear the Lord your God and serve him. When you take an oath, you must use only his name. You must not worship any of the gods of neighboring nations, for the Lord your God who lives among you is a jealous God. His anger will flare up against you, and he will wipe you from the face of the earth. You must not test the Lord your God, as you did when you complained at Massah. You must diligently obey the commands of the Lord your God, all the laws and decrees he has given you. Do what is right and good in the Lord's sight, so all will go well with you. Then you will enter and occupy the good land that the Lord swore to give your ancestors. You will drive out all the enemies living in the land, just as the Lord said you would. In the future, your children will ask you, what is the meaning of these laws, decrees, and regulations that the Lord our God has commanded us to obey? Then you must tell them, we were Pharaoh's slaves in Egypt, but the Lord brought us out of Egypt with his strong hand. The Lord did miraculous signs and wonders before our eyes, dealing terrifying blows against Egypt and Pharaoh and all his people. He brought us out of Egypt so he could give us this land he had sworn to give our ancestors. And the Lord our God commanded us to obey all these decrees and to fear him, so he can continue to bless us and preserve our lives, as he has done to this day. For we will be counted as righteous when we obey all the commands the Lord our God has given us.
And that is it for today. I will be back after the gym and lunch or whatever my dad has planned. to love, don't judge. Have a great day. Peace out.